has now become a part of the writing workflow for thousands of writers around the world. And in today's talk, that's exactly what I want to talk about: the joy of building something to solve a personal problem, but then watch it impact thousands of others around the world. My name is Prashant Udupa, and today I want to give you the story of Scrite. Now, when I was young, I wanted to be multiple things. How many of you have had these fascinating ideas of being a rickshaw driver? I wanted to be an auto driver. At one point, I wanted to be a bus driver. And for a long time, being the umpire in the cricket match fascinated me a lot. But everything changed in the year 1995. That was the year my father bought us our very first desktop computer. My talk is full on nostalgia. And then I'd help my father write documents on Word and spreadsheet because I have to justify that he bought this computer and I'm not whiling my time away. And that's how I was spending most of my time. And then in a couple of months, my cousin brother, who was also the vendor of this PC, came home and then installed the Windows 95 update. And boy, it looked gorgeous. In just a software update, the same desktop looks so cool. The same MS Paint looks so cool. And that's when I decided that I want to learn how to write software. Specifically, I wanted to learn how to build GUI applications. I got fascinated by it. So I started learning how to write code. And like most people, I started with BASIC. Now, pretty soon, I found a copy of Turbo C. Anybody remember this ancient software? Yeah. Turbo C was this IDE to build horrible C programs, but it was a great IDE back then. So I started with Hello World and some of the usual suspects. Then I was getting impatient. I wanted to build the real software, I'd not even done data structures and pointers, but I wanted to write GUI app. I wanted an MS Paint myself. So I kept looking out for resources that would help me build these large applications. And another dose of nostalgia, I found this book, C Projects from Yashwant Kanetkar. Again, anyone? Yeah. A lot of ancient people here. Huh? Yashwant Kanetkar's book was a potload of ideas to build big projects using C. And one of the projects was a GUI application. And he explained how to build this using the graphics library in Turbo C. Now, I started building that project and then used up all of the concepts that I learned in this project to build my very own MS Paint app. Of course, this is not an actual screenshot. This is an AI mockup again. I don't have the source code, unfortunately, but it looked a lot like this. Every single GUI element in the app was drawn in C code. And when this program got made, I was so proud of it and I felt so happy. And I felt that if I kept writing GUI apps, life would be great. Fast forward to 2001, October, I was in my 5th semester of engineering. I had just come back from my computer graphics class, and our professor had told us that we should develop a CG project as a part of our course. Now, in this project, we had to demonstrate that we had actually understood all the 3D math and geometry concepts that he had taught us. And this is what I was thinking of building. It would show a wireframe model of an aircraft and a bunch of controls to zoom, rotate, and pan. Now, I can't use Turbo C for this, right? It's the new millennium and I'm doing engineering and all. I have to actually build it on a real desktop platform, and I had not done that before. Now, chance encounter, one of my juniors walks into the room while I was thinking about frameworks to use for building this. And then he tells me about Linux, KDE, and Qt. Qt is this, anybody heard of Qt here? Qt is this cross-platform C++ GUI development API. It lets you write C++ application that runs on multiple platforms. I installed Red Hat Linux, launched KDevelop, and wrote my very first Qt app in a couple of hours. I felt right at home because a lot of concepts were similar to what I had built in my MS Paint application. Not only did I finish my project for the semester, I also started to build more apps in Qt, and I would look at the Qt source code. I promise I learned more about C++ looking at Qt code than I did by studying all the textbooks they told me in engineering. So I became a fan of Qt, and I kept using it for all of my other projects. Now, the game changing time was in my final year. I did my internship at Wipro, and we developed this project. This is a photograph from the project report I found in my house. This was an app that system administrators would use to construct a visual representation of their organization app tree by dragging and dropping nodes on a canvas. Click on a node, configure properties, and dictate how much bandwidth should go to that node. And then at some point, you can ask the app to generate a shell script. And when you run this shell script on a server, it would implement the bandwidth distribution policy. This was a cool product. I really loved building this. I don't know if Wipro used this. I really loved this myself. At its core, it was a document authoring tool. And for UI, it offered a canvas, it offered nodes, a bunch of connectors, and a property editor, and a document generator of some sort. Now, while I was making slides for this talk, I realized something, that I have been building the exact same app for over 2 decades of my life. Much of my work involves document authoring tools, and they all have canvas, nodes, connector, property editor, and a document generator of some sort. Some of these projects have become open source. Many of them were done as a part of my paid consulting gigs. Now, for instance, in my first job at Kolkata, my boss called me to his room and he said, "Hey, why don't you build this bunch of data visualization modules for this customer project using VTK?" Anybody heard VTK here? Rather cool open source. Kailash knows it. Another cool open source product. It's a C++ framework that lets you build 3D visualization modules. Let me take you through a very quick description of it. Suppose you wanted to visualize a cone in 3D that looks like this. You'd write a VTK C++ program, and all of these programs essentially have 3 parts. In the first part, you create instances of algorithms from the library. In the second part, you configure properties on these algorithms. And in the third part, you'd connect them to create a pipeline. And voila, you get some 3D output. Now, it doesn't matter how complex your data visualization is, you'll always construct a pipeline that consists of one or more of these guys: sources, filters, mappers, actors, and renderers. Now, at work, I would build C++ code using VTK, combining different kinds of these algorithms to create various data visualization scenarios. After a while, it stopped being fun because it's kind of rote coding. You're doing the same thing over and over again. Besides, this is where the talk gets interesting. I began to see this as a document authoring problem. How come we don't have a designer that gives you a canvas where you can drag and drop these nodes, construct your pipeline, and then get the app to write the C++ code? So I kept looking for apps which would help me do that, found nothing. So in the 10 days of Durga Puja holidays at Kolkata, I decided to build one for myself. Anybody from Kolkata here? Yeah. Durga Puja is the most beautiful festival I've ever been a part of. So during the day, I would write the code for this project. In the evening, I would feast on all the mast food that Kolkata has to offer during the puja. And then 10 days later, the very first version of VTK Designer was done. Now, this offered the dream. It had a toolbox, a canvas on which I can drag and drop algorithms, connect them to make a pipeline, configure them, see the 3D output. To this date, my son just doesn't understand why do I have to show this dead face in the screenshot, but that's the only screenshot I could find of VTK Designer 1. And this app would then generate the C++ code. Now, I would take this app to my office and I would use this to create all the data visualization modules for the work. Definitely a productivity boost for me. And I wanted to release this open source. I didn't know about SVN. I did not know about CVS. I didn't know SourceForge. And I didn't know how to create pre-built binaries for distribution. The only way of distributing software I knew back then was the humble zip file. So I created a zip file and a web page with detailed build instructions. And for announcement, this is 2004. We don't have social media back then. So mailing lists were your best bet. So I announced it on KD and Qt mailing lists. And I found people wanting to download, build, go through the pain of it all, and even send me nice feedback and bug reports and pat on the back once in a while. I got really encouraged by this. In about a year's time, can you believe it? 50 to 75 people use the app. I thought nobody would. So, armed by all of this encouragement, I'd continued developing this app. Eventually, I figured out how to make, binaries for distribution, and I started distributing it on SourceForge. So, by around 2006 7, this is how the app looked. Every once in a while, I would notice that people would include a screenshot about VTK Designer in their blogs or paper publications. They'd mention it somewhere. How many of you have built open source work and then you'll spend every day during coffee Googling your name and project? I've done that. I've been guilty of doing it. And that's how I'd find out people are mentioning. It's not like they would, send an email to me. At one point, Professor Vijay Natarajan from IISc, if you're from IISc, you'll probably know him. I heard that he was telling his students to make use of VTK Designer for a few scenarios. That was such a cool thing to know. And Linux for You published an article about VTK Designer. This was a huge magazine back then. I don't know if it's still circulating. And they also included VTK Designer source code in their CD, and that drove up the adoption. About 15,000 downloads happened around this time, and that was a big deal. One delightful surprise was this. I think my brother Praveen here will recognize this. The new edition of the VTK textbook came out. I bought the textbook. On chapter 3, there was this glorious screenshot of VTK Designer. What a beautiful day that was. I was jumping in joy. This was a book from which I learned about VTK in the first place. To come to think of it, this product was built purely to serve my personal needs. And it was creating a lot of value. So I did what most people do when they start seeing a product that's making good value. I wanted to monetize my FOSS work. Now, I never figured out how to create, sell licenses of VTK Designer or create it as a subscription thing. So I was thinking of ways to monetize it. And it so happened that I would start getting consulting offers. People would want me to freelance and help them build products similar to VTK Designer. So I quit my job in 2005, came back to Bangalore, and I decided to pursue all of these consulting assignments. And I started to look out for, conferences where I could participate. I gave my first conference talk at FOSS.in 2007. I looked for that one photo where I was present in FOSS.in. I don't have NT configured, so I just couldn't figure out where the damn photo was. So I have a stock photo from FOSS.in 2007 in honor of both Atul Chitnis and Pradiptu, who was heading the KDE thing back then. Bhushan here, anywhere? Yeah, hi Bhushan. So he'll know KDE folks as well. So I give a talk on VTK Design at FOSS.in. For those of you who don't know, before India FOSS, this was the yearly pilgrimage for the FOSS people. And we'd go there year after year. I have like mugs for every year of FOSS.in I've visited, and I keep drinking coffee from that to this date. My talk on VTK Designer was very well received, and it opened a potload of opportunities for me. I'm going to be eternally grateful to this conference for that. One of the people in my talk was Till Adam, who was part of the KDE project. And we spoke after my talk, and he said, hey, how about you come to Academy and present a talk there as well? Academy is this conference for KDE that happens in Europe. So the next year I went to Belgium and gave a talk, not on VTK Designer, but on something called GCF. It was a component framework that I had built on top of Qt, which would provide a COM-like infrastructure to create reusable components. And then you can construct a bigger application by stitching together these reusable components by writing very simple XML files. It was a very cool project. So this talk on GCF at Academy was very well received. And in that conference, people gave me ideas. Hey, why don't you license it? I came back thinking, yeah, maybe I can license it. So that became another monetization opportunity. So I came back, and by that time, there was some money flowing in. I was able to assemble a small team, and we started building applications that looked a lot like VTK Designer using GCF to solve problems in various different domains, be it medical visualization or EDA or construction monitoring system or FPGA. They'd all turn out to be document authoring problems for me. You see where I'm getting at? I was used to seeing almost every problem statement through the perspective of canvas, nodes, property editor, connectors. So this is the, this became the hammer and nail for me. And this built a lot of monetization opportunities as well. While I could never directly monetize BTK Designer, I could do so in indirect ways through the freelancing work and GCF. So that's why one clear thing is solving a problem for yourself is probably a good idea because you never know it might solve a problem for a lot of other people. Now, as I kept building this, there were problems with the monetization model after a while. So we had to wind down that adventure. My team moved on to different places, and I moved on, took a break for a while. And this was early 2017. This was a property we had in Bangalore, our family had, and we used to stay here, one or more of us. And the place had become so noisy and so commercial that we couldn't stay there anymore. I used to run my office out of this place. My older brother, Praveen, who's here, and I would meet in this place regularly, and we would brainstorm ways to make good commercial use of this property. And while brainstorming, we'd come up with a lot of ideas, all the usual suspects. What if we get someone to open a cafe? What if we get someone to open a restaurant? Both of us were freelancing. We wanted an office space. Maybe we can put together a co working space. But none of these were very exciting for us until one idea came on the table. And that got us both really, really excited. And it had something to do with films. Films. Don't we all have our own history and relationship with films? Now, I remember in the late 80s and early 90s, Doordarshan would beam a Kannada film every Sunday. Remember those days? That's how I got my dose of Dr. Rajkumar films, Dr. Vishnuvardhan films, and all the great Kannada films. And we'd watch these films as a family. Back then, all of these films had a very nice quality. They would all evoke a sense of, ethics, dharma, bhakti. You watch these films, be impacted by them, and around dinner you'd have conversations with your family and talk about how you felt about this film. This kind of an intimate film viewing experience was a very big deal for me as a child. Now, I'm sure my parents took me to the cinema theater, but probably I slept through it because I was too young. My oldest cinema theater experience was in 1995. Interestingly, the same year when my dad got my PC. Now, this was when Maniratnam's Bombay was released, right? Maybe you guys remember, you watched this in the cinema theater. And I watched this in Urvashi Cinema. South Bangaloreans here will know that this is a big deal. This was a very good theater. It still is. I remember coming back from the cinema feeling extremely moved. The film was great, but the experience of watching this film in a dark room on a large screen with hundreds of other people with great sound, that made a huge impact on me. Now I'd go back and watch more films in cinema theaters, and I'd come back home and think, how come watching films on the TV is just not that good? Back then, the sound on TV really sucked. Maybe it still does. I couldn't wait to start earning just about enough money to extend the humble living room TV with the 5.1 audio setup, and I would watch all my films on this setup. It was definitely a considerable upgrade, but it was still not a theater. I wanted a home theater. And when I got married in 2008, my wife, she was used to watching one film per year in the theater, and she gets married to a film buff. So I convinced her, hey, we should blow up all of the cash gifts we got at our wedding reception, add some more from our own pockets, and upgrade the 5.1 audio setup we have, buy a projector, get some acoustics done, and convert this 11 cross 12 feet room we have in our house into an entertainment place. And then we'd watch every weekend some film here, and we'd have friends over and cousins over and neighbors over, and we'd watch films in this place. I've watched some great films in this mini home theater. Peaceful Warrior, Captain Fantastic, The Matrix, Udidavaru Kandante so many times. And we would talk about this film to eternity. I am sure I've discovered more theories about Olidavaru Kandante than Rakshit Shetty has himself, right? And this kind of a private, intimate cinema experience was deeply meaningful. So, no wonder when my brother and I were speaking about the films, yes, no wonder when my brother and I were speaking about various ideas, I came up with this idea and I said, hey, what if you build a mini theater, 10 to 15 seats, and get someone to do professional acoustics, audio, and projection setup, have a private lounge outside, and this will be a kind of place where people will get to watch their own films with their own people, with their own food. Private cinema experience. And in September 2017, we launched Terryflix. This was the value proposition when we first launched. We thought at the very least, we'll have a cinema theater for ourselves. Now, when we launched Terryflix, the adoption was underwhelming. 4 bookings per month, roughly. That was until filmmakers caught up on this place. They were looking for a small, cozy place to host pre release screenings of their upcoming films to private audiences. And when they got to know about Terryflix, the bookings expanded 300, 30 odd bookings a month. And we'd have celebrities come over, filmmakers come over. And that's how I became aware of the entire filmmaking process. Now, of this entire process, I got fascinated with one part, and that is screenplays. I'd request filmmakers to conduct screenwriting workshops so that I can learn screenplays myself, and then we'll also have an event to do at Terryflix. And that's when I picked the first few basics of screenplays. You see, screenplay was something that fascinated me a lot because as a developer, I write code. And yeah. As a developer, I'd write code and people will get to watch the thing on the screen, on the monitor. And as a screenwriter, they'll write code, but then what comes on the screen is the film. There was an audio here which is not coming, but that's okay. So you'll notice that even screenplays have syntax and proper formatting and structure. Now, at the most fundamental unit of a screenplay is a scene, and each scene has a bunch of things, very well formatted paragraphs. There's a scene heading. Action paragraphs describe visuals, character dialogue describes speaking, and then there is parentheticals, and then there's a transition paragraph which tells you how scene goes from one to another. Now, there's a very important reason why the format is in this way. Because when you write screenplays in this format, you'll notice that each page of your screenplay roughly translates to a minute of screen time. And this is a useful metric for the filmmaker to do a lot of things, budgeting, scheduling, and things like that. So I'd start writing screenplays. I would read books on screenwriting. I'd ask filmmakers to give their screenplays. And I started to use a lot of these screenwriting apps. Naturally, I was used to looking at all document authoring problems as Canvas, Nodes. And I kept looking for apps that offered the same kind of interface, Canvas, Node, Property Editor. Nothing really existed. And maybe I thought that it is not a good way to write screenplays. But then I bumped into this video from Christopher Nolan, where he talks about how he visualized the story structure of Memento. Now, he's presenting this idea of creating the story as large canvas, plotting up the scenes on a large canvas, visualizing the connections, and then constructing the story using this method. So if Christopher Nolan thinks that this is a great way to build films, I thought maybe there's a good value to it. So during the pandemic, I thought of working on this idea. And this time I decided to use the QML framework in Qt, the declarative UI, but to build a desktop platform. They were advertising it as a platform for building UIs on the mobile phones, but this was a desktop thing. About 3 weeks later, the first prototype of Scrite was ready, and this is what it looked like. You could create these scene blocks on a canvas, and then capture your synopsis, type up your story, in the scene as a formatted piece of text, and then you could drag and drop these scene blocks on this timeline below and construct how the scenes flow from one to another. So it will also show you the shape and flow of your story. Now, if you have Rashomon loops, You can drag and drop it again, and then it will create these loops. Now, I had this story idea for something that will unroll in 3 tracks, one for each set of characters, and the story will intertwine. I was able to easily visualize this on this large canvas and also generate a PDF file directly from within the app. Now, once I had gotten this far, I requested some of the filmmakers who would come to Periflix to take a look at this and give me some feedback. And they gave me some great feedback, kept working on it. 2 filmmakers in particular, Abhay Simha and Adarsh Ishwarappa, both of whom are award-winning directors and writers, they offered to create podcasts about the value of the Scrite approach to writing screenplays. And that was very well received. I'd get more feedback. And as I kept getting more feedback, because it was QML, the turnaround times was better. So I kept creating more and more and more updates.
Users in a matter of weeks.
And the app started to look and function better and better.
UI, building new features, making the app look.
And in a little while, I found the first 2 members of our team who offered, skills that were complementing my own. One is Surya Vashishta, who is right here, who's an actor and director himself. He has designed all the user interface and visual design of the app. The one on the extreme right is Puneet Tucker. He used to work for Shikya Entertainment under Gunit Monga, who won the Oscars in 2023. So he offers perspective of Scrite usage from a production setup. And he has helped with the marketing and promotions. And in addition to these 2 people, I'd find a lot of partners in our users as well. One such user group is Paramva Rakshit Shetty Studio. These are people who made Avnish Srimanarayana, Kirik Party, and other cult films. Now, once they got to know about this, all the writers at Paramva started to use Scrite, and they would offer me great feedback. Rahul and Pooja, who were 2 filmmakers from this unit, also wrote their film and credited Scrite in the rolling credits of their film. Rakshit would himself spend a lot of time explaining certain key features he required in the app, like the structuring features. So all of the templating and the structuring mechanisms available in Scrite are a direct result of his participation and his mentoring and support. Sanjay Sharma was part of the Screenwriters Association Mumbai. He was a committee member. He offered a platform to demo Scrite to screenwriters all over the country, and that's how the news of Scrite kind of spread across outside of Karnataka. We'd receive a lot of love letters on our website. People would appreciate how much they love the app, and some people would privately send love letters with loaded emotion. That's also another way of expressing love. Some of them will scold you. Some of them will want your phone number so they can privately bother you. But it's all great ways of expressing that they love the app and they care enough to even talk about it. Roshan Abbas and Mayur Puri spoke about it. Mayur Puri is, a very, very senior writer and songwriter in Mumbai. There was a very strong word of mouth for the product. A lot of films that you've watched in the last few years are probably written in Scrite. Many senior filmmakers like Hemant Rao and, Raj Shetty and Sunil Raghavendra, Pradeep Verma, a lot of these folks have been using Scrite and promoting it. They've put their weight behind Scrite. We've had, people do reviews on Scrite. None of these are paid, by the way. The media has covered Scrite, most recent one being from Money Control. We also have an active Discord community where more than 2,000 writers constantly give us feedback and help make the product better. I realize I've not shown you how the app looks today. This is the home screen of the app. You can start building your new screenplay from a template or from any of the existing screenplays in our library. This is the structure tab. All these scenes are now represented as index cards like the way screenwriters want. You can stack them, tag formal story structures, and see how the pacing is on the timeline. This is how the screenplay editor looks. You can capture characters present in every scene. This is very useful for scheduling later on. We have a very comprehensive notebook where you can capture character and story notes. The PDF output is up to industry standards. We have many pre-production reports. This is a character report which lists dialogues for all characters, for a specific character in your screenplay. Now, this is available in most apps. What's probably not available is something like this. This is a 1-page statistics report which gives you a very nice visually appealing overview of your entire film, including the pacing, how the character's presence vary throughout the film. And all of this is open source. Scrite is built on the same open source code that is there in GitHub, minus the API keys that we use for accessing our web servers. I've given multiple technical talks about Scrite at various CUTE conferences. This is from one such talk where I would dive deep into the technical details and implementation of the app itself.
Large desktop applications. Not only can we build cool looking UIs using HTML, we can also build the kind of UIs we were
So we have a relationship
and traditional
graph where you can capture relationship between characters like that, and a place to see film and screenplay scrolling together.
you through some of the best practices that I have discovered, highlight why model view thinking is so important, walk you through parts of the source code of a free and open source desktop app that I've been working on to highlight the various ways.
So all of these talks are available on our website,
to talk of.
and we have user guides in both text and video also available on the website. Now, since its first public beta release in April 2020, close to 45,000 writers around the world have used the app. Many continue to be active users to this date and have also become paid subscribers. Now, 45,000 looks like a small number. You have to see it in context of the number of screenwriters, though. You probably have 1 million screenwriters around the world. Filter it out for professional ones, that is closer to 250,000. That's a 2% market share, right, for a brand new open source product. Now, in India, Screenwriters Association probably has about 60,000 registered users, and we have 30,000 writers from India who have used Scrite app, and many continue to do so today. We launched paid subscription plans in January this year, and after that, these were the plans available. Close to 10,000 folks have used it on trial, and close to 1,500 folks have subscribed and paid for one or more of these plans, and it's doing great. Now, we have a product, we have a market, we have a product market fit, and there is some revenue trickling in. It's time to get a little ambitious. In the coming year, we probably want to attack some of these problem statements. We want to build production tools. We want to reimagine Scrite not just as a story writing app, but as a tool that the entire production unit can rally behind. And we want to get into some of these aspirational tools like script review, maybe AI assisted pre visualization, writers community, and we definitely want to build an active contribution community as well. And that's one area I want to transform, because in my previous open source projects I've terribly failed at that. So I want to close with this. Sometimes solving a problem for that itch you have is maybe a good idea, because you never know, it might solve a problem for many people around the world, and there is enough monetization opportunities. So if you're looking to go after that one idea, go for it. Thank you very much. My name is Prashant. This was the story of Scrite.